Good afternoon. I'm Brent Cuney, Manager of Member Services with the Ohio Restaurant Association. It's my pleasure to welcome you to this free Ohio Restaurant Association Restaurant Education Series event. So, Success in 140 Characters, a focus on Twitter. This is the second in a series of 7 webinars on social media. This series came out of requests from participants in the Social Media Summit last year. We'll be holding another in-person Social Media Summit later this year in Columbus, so be looking for that. The Ohio Restaurant Association Restaurant Education Series provides members free access to educational events that help them sustain and grow their businesses and are developed based on member feedback. RES events support a key ORA initiative, the education of our members. All educational events are posted on the ORA website, ohiorestaurant.org. For information, go to the Education and Events tab, then Restaurant Education Series for the information. This is where the webinar, along with the PowerPoint slides, will be posted in the next 2 to 3 business days. Heartland Payment Systems is a lead sponsor of all RES events. We thank them for their support of this valuable programming. Before we get started, I want to review a few housekeeping items and let you know how you can participate in today's webinar. At the end of the webinar, we'll take your questions, but please, during the webinar, send them to me. We will do our best to answer all the questions. If we don't have time to answer all the questions, we will send the answers to the entire group via email. After the webinar closes, a survey is going to pop up. It will take you no longer than 3 minutes to complete. Please respond to the survey in order for us to improve our offerings. So let's get started. Currently, we're looking at an example of the Gotowebinar attendee interface, which is made up of 2 parts. The viewer window on the left, which allows you to see everything the presenter is going to share on his screen, and the control panel on the right. Within that control panel is how you can participate in today's event. So let's look at that. By clicking on the orange arrow, you can open and close your control panel. From the View menu, you can also set the control panel not to auto-hide when inactive if you prefer to keep it always open. The audio pane provides audio information. By default, you have joined the webinar via mic and speakers. If you prefer, you can if you click Audio Setup to select your computer speaker or headset devices. If you prefer, you can join the audio via telephone by selecting Use Telephone. And the dial-in information will be displayed, including an audio pin, which you must enter. At the end of the presentation, we will answer your questions. Please send your questions to our webinar staff, which is me, through the question box. Please simply type your question and click Send. Okay. So now I'd like to invite you and introduce our speaker. If you were on last week's webinar, you'll recognize him. Sean Christie is the founder of Eat, Drink, Promote and the current president of Focal Point Social Media. Through Sean's passion for driving online buzz combined with over 15 years of marketing experience, Christie Creative was born. With the success the company was having in the food and beverage industry, he made the decision to launch a separate brand, Eat, Drink, Promote. Since its inception in 2010, hundreds of companies have turned to Sean for his expertise in crafting strategic social media messaging that builds brands and garners results. In addition, Sean is a partner in Emerging Chefs and helps startup restaurateurs get exposure. Sean has spoken to groups all over the country on the topic of driving revenue with the incredible power of social media, including the North America Pizza and Ice Cream Show, as well as the Florida Restaurant and Lodging Show for the past 2 years. So let's welcome Sean.
Thank you, Brian.
Okay, Sean. It is your turn at the screens.
Fantastic. So from last week, you probably remember, if you joined us, that I like quotes. And I always like to start out with a quote to frame the conversation that we're going to be having specific to our social media. So this quote from Jay Baer I thought was appropriate because Twitter seems to be the scary social media platform to all of our restaurant clients. And I'm not sure exactly why that is. Maybe the language is a little bit different and it can be intimidating at first glance. But really when you dig down deep and you understand a couple of the basics, it becomes a little easier. And I want to start with this quote. Focus on how to be social, not on how to do social. When Jay said this in his book, Convince and Convert, I thought this made a lot of sense because far too often social media is a checklist item. It's one of our to-dos. And I think when you are looking for the secret of getting results, it's just as simple as focusing on how to be social. Our customers want to have a relationship with us as owners, as employees, as a brand, and Twitter is a great way to do that. So to guide us today, focus on how to be social, not on how to do social. So how can we be more social? I always like to start out with a couple statistics, and we will talk about overarching statistics social media-wise, and we will also look at Twitter-specific statistics because we need to know that there are some people there because we're going to give our valuable time to some of these things. So we want to see who's there and is it worth my time. Talk a little bit about what Twitter is, the construction of a tweet. We see all kinds of @ signs and shorten URLs and hashtags, and what does that all mean? So we'll talk a little bit about that. I have 3 keys for impact, and my 3 keys for impact are the same for any social media platform we discuss. So this will be a piece to every webinar that we do. However, I will break that down to what it means specifically for that particular social media platform. We've also received several questions about Twitter, and I have created a section called Question Spotlights. So throughout the presentation, they will be on a gray slide of questions that have been asked prior to the webinar, and I've produced some different answers to those questions for those folks that have done that. And then, as Bren said, we'll have time for Q&A at the end. And certainly, anybody can feel free to reach out to me through any social media platform that they participate in and ask me follow-up questions over the coming days, months, years. It doesn't matter. This is an open invitation to connect with me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, however you communicate from a social perspective. My clients are also my friends, and if you're a friend of the Ohio Restaurant Association, you're a friend of mine as well. So feel free to connect with me in those ways as well. Social by the numbers. This is a Pew Internet Research study, and what it shows is the vast amount of Internet users that participate in some sort of social networking activity. Almost 75%, 3/4 of Internet users participate in some form of social media. If your target demographic is somewhere in the 18 to 64 years of age range, they're in that segment. And you'll also see that that 65-plus group is growing, and I suspect that over 50% of them will be on by next year. So I really think you're going to see everybody participating on these different platforms. And it doesn't matter your race, ethnicity, your educational attainment, your household income. Those things don't impact the ability to participate on social media. It's great because everybody has a voice, and everybody has a voice in the way that they want to have it. So in many cases, that's Facebook, could be LinkedIn, could be Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram. It doesn't matter. Everybody can pick where they want to be and participate, how they like to participate, so we can meet our customers where they're at on their terms. Our fastest growing demographic, this changed from last year. It's 50 to 64-year-olds are the fastest growing group. Our largest audience, as you would expect, is that 18 to 29 demographic, but they're all going up. That's great news for us as restaurant owners, marketing managers, as marketing firms like myself, because the more people that are on these platforms, the easier it is to reach them if we know who they are. I thought this was a pretty impressive graph. You can see when Facebook started to where it's at today, and we talked about this last week. You have almost 1.2 billion users on Facebook, and you can see where Twitter starts shortly thereafter and how it's grown, and then some of the other platforms that we'll be talking about later. here are our Twitter-specific statistics. So there are all kinds of different takes on how many Twitter users there are, but what Twitter has said is that there are 250 million people on Twitter. So people being our customers, over 250 million. Of those, 100 million are daily users. We have 208 followers per Twitter account on average. That's the average Twitter account with 208 followers. The average user spends 107 minutes monthly. So when they're there, they're using it for a pretty substantial amount of time. 46% of those use Twitter daily. 26%, I thought this was an interesting, 26% of teen users list Twitter as a favorite. And that largest demographic, that 18 to 29 that we just looked at, is 45% of the 18 to 29-year-old age group uses Twitter. Now here's one that kind of talks on the opposite end. There's still a lot of folks not on Twitter. So you have to really take a look to see if this makes sense for your bar restaurant organization, because 91% of internet users are not on Twitter. So we saw earlier on that 73%, almost 3/4 of people participate in social networking. However, Twitter is the one where many shy away because they don't understand the language, and it seems like a daunting task to get started. So really take a look at who you're trying to attract, where you're trying to draw those people, and see if this platform makes sense for you. It may or may not, depending on how much time that you have and how many resources you want to devote to social media, but it certainly can be impactful, and I'm going to tell you a few stories later in the presentation that really showed me how powerful this tool is. Twitter was founded in 2006, and it's known as a microblogging site, so quick snippets of information, 140 characters to be exact, hence the name of the presentation today. And I have here, we're going to talk about the construction of the tweets, and I have some tweets here, one from my phone and one from the ORA. You may see this pound sign, which they call a hashtag, and the easiest way to describe it to somebody that doesn't quite get what that means, it's just a way to group information. So you see here that we have hashtag Akron, which is where my company is located. I could search Akron, and everything that was tied to that hashtag would come up. We have Ohio Growth Summit at the bottom here from the Ohio Restaurant Association. So many events will create hashtags to go around their event, so people searching for information about the event can grab that. So you see hashtag OGS14 was a hashtag that was created for the Ohio Growth Summit. So it's just a way to group tweets based on a certain set of information. Could be location-based, like I have hashtag Akron in this top one, or it could be around an event, or just things that are said. You may see hashtag TBT, Throwback Thursday. All these different things, when you see a hashtag, they're created for the reason of grouping the information. Then you see the @ sign a lot, and that goes before your Twitter handle or your username. So @Sean Christie is my particular account, and some of this may be old news to people. For some, you may be hearing this for the first time. So we try to give as much information to the background of some of these things as possible, so that users that are just deciding whether they should get involved will understand where some of these are coming from. So we want to make sure that this is for everybody. It's rapid-fire communication. It's real-time. I will be having conversations all day long, and you can see here that a local brewery is tweeting back and forth with me. It congratulated me on something, then I responded, and I mentioned that I'll be out because they have some excellent craft beer locally, my favorite being the blueberry wheat, so I used the hashtag craft beer and blueberry wheat. You'll see there as well. So I'm having a conversation back and forth, and it's really just like we would be talking in person, only slightly altering our language a little bit to the character requirement of 140 characters. So it's used for a real-time communication tool. I've seen some companies even move to Twitter for real-time customer service rather than calling an 800 number and dialing 1 and then listening for all of the different choices we can select and then hitting 1 again and getting frustrated or not getting to the right spot and hanging up and trying to call back. Some companies, and I can see more and more companies moving to this real-time communication tool for customer service where their questions can be answered immediately. A lot of technology companies and apps are doing this, but I could definitely see this as being something to be used in the bar and restaurant community if it can be managed. Where this will fall off is when individuals are trying to have a two-way conversation with us and we're not responding for a day or two or sometimes weeks or sometimes not at all. It would be the equivalent of you and I having a conversation at a networking meeting and you just completely ignoring what I say. And when we look at social media like that, we begin to understand it a little bit better. This is simply a way to communicate, and it's faster, and we can be in more places all at once than we ever have been able to before. So just look at this as a way to talk back and forth with our customers. We don't want to push, and we'll talk about this. We want people to see that we're active and we're responding. A couple different things that you can do with a tweet. There's retweet, which if you look here, you'll see the highlighted green in the middle, the arrows that kind of make a circle. You'll see that. That's a retweet. There's reply, which is the reply sign to the left of that right above my head, which means the retweet is sending back out that exact same tweet. You're retweeting it. Then there's the reply. That's the back and forth conversation that you're having. And then there's favorite. You're just letting somebody know that that was great. I like that. You might not want to engage in that conversation, but just letting them know that you agree with it, you support it, that you liked it is a good way to look at favorite. And those are some of the opportunities that you have to engage with your clients, customers, friends, and family here on Twitter. My 3 keys for impact: makeup, messaging, and management. So when I talk about makeup, it's really the construction. It's really the construction of the platform. So on Twitter, very, very, very similar to Facebook. You used to have a couple different options in tailoring what Twitter looks like, but they've moved to a format very recently that almost looks exactly the same as Facebook. So we always suggest as a best practice of just making it visually appealing, popping, so when they see it, it flows, it looks good, and it looks good across the board. So your Twitter looks very similar to your Facebook, if not exact. We call that brand congruence. We like for our clients and our friends to have a good first impression, just like you would want when you're networking with somebody in person or when they walk in the door to your restaurant for the first time. You have that one opportunity to make a good first impression, so make sure that your social media gives that to you, because many times they're doing some research before they come out if it's a first time and making some decisions based off what they see on your social profiles. So make sure it's visually appealing, it speaks to your brand, it gives you the voice that you want to portray, and that it looks the same so that they start to see that congruence across all the different platforms. Because then if they see the same face on social, they'll expect that that will continue inside the restaurant. Make sure that you have a complete profile. This is a mobile version of the ORA Twitter, but if you scroll past that picture, you'll be able to see some quick pieces of information. Including website. You can also put different keywords that you would want to be found in a search for in that material so that people can find you when they're searching outside of just your Twitter handle. One of the questions that we have for our question spotlight: what is the best way to survey your customers to see where they are at? Well, I put one of the things that you can do that's fairly easy is you can leverage the national averages, leverage some of the research that's already out there before you ask your customers. So that would be a good place to start. Take a look and see nationally where are people spending their time. We know the amount of users on Facebook and Twitter. We know the demographics, so you can kind of start making some decisions based on those very general averages that we've seen across the country. One of the other things that we suggest, if you have an email list, that you could use SurveyMonkey and just attach a quick survey. Again, we recommend keeping it very quick. Attention spans are short, but you could send that out. Monitoring local competition is another good way to just kind of keep a finger on the pulse and see what's happening out there. If you have competitors that are very savvy in this area and you can you can see where they're spending their resources and their time, and then make some educated decisions based on what you see there. Twitter specific. Here is a program that I like, and this is a Chrome plugin. So if anybody is out there using Chrome, there is an app that you can get in the Chrome store that is called Riffle, R-I-F-F-L-E. You can actually see your Twitter users that are following you, and this particular app will pull up other social media platforms that they're on, LinkedIn, for example, Facebook. It's a plugin. You have to add it to Chrome for this to happen, but then when you're on Twitter, you'll be able to pull up more information on these specific individuals that you're following, that are following you, that you might want to follow to see where they're participating in other social media. The other cool thing this app will do is show you all the different things that they talk about, the things that they talk about the most. So there's some valuable information here. Again, that's Riffle, R-I-F-F-L-E. I use this all the time, and I think it's a cool little plugin that you can use to get a lot of value in a short amount of time. 5 is Ask Them. Ask them if you're on other social media. You can do polls on Facebook and ask them where else you should be. You can ask them in person. That could be something done on-premise. There are a lot of different ways to ask your customers where they're at. Another question that we got is, any suggestions related to policies on posting if you have various staff members doing the posting? One, we always recommend having a champion of social media, and that could be somebody, that could be a manager, that could be just a new staff member that is really passionate about it, that seems to really want to do it and like it, but they need to be managing the process at a very high level. Have a strategy. Here's what we're trying to accomplish with social media, Twitter specifically. Here's what we want to do, and make sure that all the posting adheres to that strategy. If we're posting, it needs to be able to go back and meet that strategy and those goals and objectives. Be authentic. Have staff members sign tweets with initials or first name if you have the room, and that way people that interact with the restaurant know that it's Sally or Sean or Brent. That might be a fun way to do it. Just have fun with it, and then monitor the results. As a result of having these multiple people, is our feedback getting better? Are we getting more activity? Just to make sure that we know what we're doing is working. Message. This is the second M. Passion is the gasoline of social media, and Jay Bear said this as well. This is really the case. People, you'll notice right now if you're on Twitter or any social media for that matter, the hot topic is the World Cup, especially with the U.S. having a good run, and you could see the passion of people rooting for the United States of America in the World Cup. And when the goal tied them up during the last game, I mean, it just went ballistic on Twitter. So you can see that things that people are passionate about, not just your restaurant, but think about your target market. What are they passionate about? And jump into those conversations. World Cup is very hot right now. A lot of people are getting good conversations started based around this. And people are going to watch World Cup games, so the more passionate you are about what they're passionate about, the better chance you have to see them. There's a book that I recommend to everybody. It's called The Go-Giver. And this go-giver mentality is that it's not all about you. We want to go out. We want to be a great resource. We want to help other people, and in turn, they will come to us. And the same thing can be done on any social media platform, but especially on Twitter. We want to tailor our messages to that specific audience. So use hashtags. Use multiple hashtags. See what your customers are talking about and use hashtags that they're using as appropriate. Pictures. Twitter has also changed its feed to showcase visual content better now. So it's not just about the characters. Pictures are big. And take risks. And I'm going to share just one story because I know that we're running short on time today, but I'm going to share a story about Kevin Durant. Anybody that follows basketball knows Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is the MVP of the NBA. I am very involved with youth, specifically collegiate youth, both in my fraternity and local universities and entrepreneurship programs. During the NBA lockout several years ago, Kevin Durant tweeted he was bored because of the lockout. A student in my fraternity, the president of our fraternity at Oklahoma State, tweeted at Kevin Durant and said, we're playing football. Are you any good? And Kevin Durant said, yeah, I can play. And Kevin Durant actually went out and played quarterback for the Sigma Nu flag football team in Stillwater, and the whole thing was documented by ESPN. So if you Google Kevin Durant Twitter Sigma Nu, you will find the exchange. Nobody else tweeted at Kevin Durant to say anything else, only this student, and because this student took a risk and had a conversation with somebody, Kevin Durant came out and played football with them. So what that means to you is anybody can be reached. You can have a conversation with anybody. Nobody's going to pick up the phone probably that's on this webinar and get a hold of Kevin Durant. However, from that example, you can see that we can tweet at them and get them to pay attention to us. So take some risks, have some conversations, and when you start a conversation, be ready to have a back and forth with somebody that is a professional athlete or somebody that's an actor or actress or singer or band. They will have the conversations with you here on Twitter, and it happens every day. So take some risks and have some conversations that you'd like to have. If you could talk to anybody, who would it be? And start talking about them. You never know when they're in town if they're going to stop out to see you. There are paid advertising options on Twitter, so I wanted to make you aware of that. But you have to have been a Twitter user for a while, several weeks, and have some tweets going out. This is one way to have people follow you because you can have your account promoted to build audience, but you can also do sponsored tweets, and you can see here what those two different things look like. Question Spotlight. What are some good ways to shorten URLs on Twitter? The first one that I'm going to recommend is ow.ly. That one, if you log in with your Twitter account, you can put a URL in there, hit shorten, and it will embed it into a tweet for you as long as your account is hooked up, and you can send out the embedded shorten URL right from there. There's also a Google version, and there's a Bitly. So I wanted to share those with you, but if you're using Twitter, this ow.ly, that would be a good one for you to use to integrate into Twitter immediately. Is there a right and wrong way to abbreviate on Twitter? Well, the answer, I guess, would be it depends on what you're trying to abbreviate. So there are some standard abbreviations that are commonly used. Shaking my head, retweet. I use just those two simple examples that are pretty common. But Mashable did a nice Twitter lingo guide, so I put the link here for you to check out. If you just went to Mashable and you search Twitter lingo guide, you would see that. The last M is management. So we talked about having somebody accountable, having a strategy, but you need to post and respond regularly, and it's different. I think I read somewhere that around the top followed Twitter brands tweet like 50 times a week. It's a large amount, and I know that's very difficult, if not impossible, for us to do. But do it in a way that's consistent and regular. Utilize tools. Somebody was asking about tools. Hootsuite is a great tool that can be used on a desktop or on your smart device. Monitor your results so you can see I've become more active over the last 2 weeks, and I've gotten more interactions, more clicks to my website. However, you're going to determine your results as favorable. And then managing complaints. Social media doesn't create negativity, uncovers it. I use this for all of our restaurant clients because a lot of people are scared to join in the conversation because they don't want the negative to come back on them. And we always say that it's out there regardless. Own the conversation by being on these platforms. Acknowledge publicly and then take it privately to fix it. It's got to be part of a multifaceted plan. You want to promote it on premise in your email, direct mail, and email campaigns. And then our question spotlight. Are there any good apps to connect your social media platforms that aren't robotic in feel? We talked a little bit the robotic feel with Facebook. Apps aren't what make the social media robotic. It's the way the messages are crafted that is what makes them feel robotic. So, for example, we don't want to post something to Facebook and then have it look exactly the same across all the platforms. So we get a nice Hootsuite product, or Sprout Social is another one that I've used in the past, and then we put the same thing and it just gets blasted out to all the different platforms. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. When on Twitter, do as the folks on Twitter do. Use hashtags. Make it feel like a very natural and organic feel. The conversation is what makes it robotic, not the apps. Certainly these apps can help you, and you can certainly schedule things, but you also want some things to be real time, just like tweeting during the World Cup game for the USA and Germany that's coming up. Make it real time, make it relevant. How do I get more followers? Well, to get more followers, you have to have great stuff coming out. They want it to be a two-way exchange, and they want it to add some value to their lives, not just selling to them. So great content is the cornerstone to getting more followers. Being active, not just having great content, but having a continuous flow is important. When somebody follows you, if they're a legitimate account where you can see some two-way value flowing, follow them back. You'll see a lot of restaurants, they'll have a few thousand followers, but they're only following 10 people. I like to, and maybe some of those people are not worth following. There are a lot of spam accounts out there, and you'll be able to see by the types of tweets if they're spam Twitter accounts or if they're potential customers. But you want to follow them when they follow you. They'll feel good about that. Search Twitter. People forget about the search functionality. It might be location, so I might search in my market is Akron. I might search Akron and look at everybody that's got Akron in their profiles or in their names and see if they might be potential people that either could be my potential customers or my potential customers might benefit from hearing some of their information, because I like to share great content from others. And then engage them. Have a conversation. Don't follow and walk away. Figure out different ways to engage with them. Follow people who follow you. Talk to them. We've got a couple different pieces in terms of how are we going to manage this. What's the purpose? Increase foot traffic. Show expertise. Drive web traffic. For driving web traffic, we need to have links to our website in there. We can't forget that. Increase visibility. We're able to track eyeballs on our tweets and how many times it's getting interacted with. Maybe it's be a resource, customer service, and showcase involvement. So the results are driving word of mouth, obviously increased foot traffic. We're going to be able to see as a result of our new social media campaigns, are we increasing revenue? Many of the sites have review functionality, so increasing our reviews, finding new customers with search tools, encouraging repeat business through contesting and social programs. And we've talked about visiting websites, but maybe it's other social media sites as well. How do we measure? So growth and following, people replying, favoriting and retweeting our information, and then figuring out when are the best times and days, and are we truly reaching out and talking to our target demographic. My question is, are you being social? Are you being social or are you doing social? If you're doing social, I would encourage you to really explore just trying to be more social. It's not that it's rocket scientists. It's just a little unnatural online versus in person. We're all great at it when somebody walks into our doors, but it becomes a little bit more challenging when we're doing it behind the scenes. So if you master the 3 keys of makeup, messaging, and management, you'll have an excellent head start in having this social conversation. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Bren for some Q&A.
Okay. A question that came in a little bit ago was, what's a plugin for those who don't know what a plugin is?
They're programs. Good question. They're programs that will attach to your browser. So if I use Chrome, for example, I can have Twitter running on my Chrome bar at all times. That Riffle app is running on my Chrome bar. I have a couple different social media platforms that are plugged right into my search bar where I can drop them down at any time that I want to. So if you're not familiar with plugins, they're really shortcuts that make your life a little bit easier with some of this social media stuff. So definitely take a look at if whatever social media that you're on, find some of those plugins for Chrome that you can use.
Great, thanks. Another question that came in was, in order to have more followers, you said have great content. What would you consider some examples of great content?
So it's going to depend. It's going to depend on who your target audience is. So if we're talking about, let's say, we're a family restaurant and we love having kids, then I'll just use, I have my 5th child on the way here in the next couple weeks, and my wife uses social media for party planning when we're having a birthday, and my youngest son just had his 4th birthday. So we're getting ideas for what we want to eat in terms of catering, what the cake's going to look like, and she's looking at themes. So we did Cookie Monster. So she went to social media. She looked at Pinterest for different decoration ideas, and then she was asking in some of these different mom groups about some of these other things that she could do, or where somebody got their cake, or what they did for catering for this. So they're going out there and looking for that kind of information. So you might be a restaurant that caters, but you don't always have to talk about just what you cater. You just want people to attach your restaurant name to catering. So maybe my wife doesn't hire you to do this catering because it's, maybe we're not doing pizza or it's not high end. She might use you as a resource for getting some great information on party planning or some different ideas that she used for the party in terms of games and things the kids could play, but you are top of mind to her as the place that she got that great information. So then she can go back and continually use you as a resource, and you will always be in her mind. So when the opportunity for whatever your specialty does come forward, she will pick you because you have been there for so long, adding great value to her life, making her life easier. Could also be, and I'll stay with the kids because that's near and dear to my heart, and it's a way that we consume social often, is school closings. We've had floods and we've had one heck of a winter with these emergency school closings. The local YMCA has emergency childcare in a geographic area. That doesn't have anything to do with your bar or restaurant, but if you put that out there and if your target's families, people will share that information, and they're sharing it with your name attached to it as being a place where they could go for that kind of great information. And guess what? It wasn't self-promotion, but it was a way for you to assist your target market, show a lot of value, and be top of mind.
Great. Could you give us a quick example of how someone could use Twitter to get more customers? I think there's a disconnect with, how can you use Twitter to get people if people have to find you on Twitter?
Well, one, we're always looking for repeat business. What we've really seen is the ability to drive our same customer in more times because we're engaged with them socially. It's less expensive to get a customer to come in multiple times than to get a new customer from what we've seen in our history. So doing different things and connecting and having conversations with people. So just putting great information out there for them to gravitate to. And people that are on Twitter will search for things. They will look for you. So you want to be part of those conversations. Even if you interject yourself into those conversations, let's use the World Cup, for example. If you're having a great World Cup conversation and somebody's looking for the game, they would potentially come to you. Or if you can listen for people talking about the World Cup, you will see where you watching the World Cup might be something that's going on out there in your area. You can then say, hey, we'd love to have you out. Just look for opportunities to have conversations to drive people. But I will tell you, if you keep showing up to people, they will then go to your restaurant or buy your product. We work with Cleveland Whiskey up here locally, and I ended up tweeting a picture of our tour that we were just going on this tour, very interesting stuff, cool technology. And then a lady that I'm connected to owns a cupcake shop. She then went out, got Cleveland Whiskey, and was talking about making a cupcake that had the Cleveland Whiskey ingredient and then tagged them in it the next day after I had posted that. So there is a trickle down. You don't see it 100% of the time, but I can guarantee you if you're active on these different social media platforms, the opportunities will arise just because you were in the conversation. It's not like a collision center where I'm only going to be taking my car somewhere if I get hit or I get in an accident, where bars and restaurants, people are eating out multiple times a day sometimes, 7 days a week, or they need catering for something, or they're bringing lunch in for a business meeting. These are ways for you to stay in front of people and be top of mind when they're making these decisions. And based on how things look, somebody might be in the mood for sushi, and all of a sudden something comes up, and you're the place that they pick out of the 5 local places. So it's being in front of people at the time that a decision is being made. And in addition to that, it will drive your ratings up if you're doing a good job, and people will make decisions based on a 4 or 5, 3.5 star rating. Conversely, it will hurt you. So this is a good way to be part of the conversation and get people talking about you in a positive light to drive also recommendations that will then in turn drive people in.
Great. You had said that top brands tweet about 50 times a week, and you said that would be rather difficult for us, which would be very difficult. How often should someone tweet?
I think if you're just getting started, it depends on if you have something good to say. I will say don't tweet just to tweet and get stuff out there. I would be looking when I was starting out, and I've been doing this since about 2009, just look to initially start having some good conversations with people and maybe try to post something once a day. I would say if you get to a place where you're tweeting 5 times a day, that'd be awesome. But right now, like World Cup, if that's something that impacts you, because that's getting a lot of buzz on Twitter, if you look at that, look for conversations that are going on locally and just share other people's comments or chime in and, you know, root for the USA when they score and just talk about when they score a goal, get excited and be part of the conversation. And then people will start to follow you because, oh, they're just like me. I didn't know they supported, you know, so I didn't know they were soccer fans. So it gives them a little bit of a flavor for what you're all about. Maybe that's not your personality. We did talk about being authentic, but find out what is. Maybe it's automobiles or motorcycles, or it's another sport. And, you know, Columbus, Ohio State is a big deal. So figure out what you're passionate about, and I guarantee you, whatever you're passionate about, there are other people that are passionate about those things. So look for opportunities every single day when you have some downtime to have conversations with people and follow people that talk about those same passions that you have and share their stuff and share back and forth. And people will really appreciate the fact that you're just like them and you're having a conversation with them instead of just trying to market our businesses, because we can see that happens a lot. And we talked in the last session about attention being the new currency. If I don't feel like it's about me and it's speaking to me, then I ignore it. So figure out a way to connect with somebody on a personal level through your brand, through your personal Twitter if you're doing it personally. Those are good ways to do it. But I think if you were tweeting 5 times a day and it was good stuff, because you gotta understand that Twitter it's rapid fire communication. So if you tweet once, then it could get buried. If I'm following several thousand people and you tweet in the morning and I don't jump on until the afternoon, that's going to be hidden. So and I also want to say it's okay to repurpose content. It's okay to tweet the same thing in the morning and then later in the night, because you're going to reach 2 different audiences based on how people are consuming the information. So you can double up on tweets and you can recycle content over time. There's so much content that's getting shared on Twitter, and it's so fast that people won't recognize that some of it's duplicate.
Great. Well, those were actually all the questions, so I thank you for those. Next, I just want to mention, I want to thank Sean for providing his expert advice. We appreciate you greatly, and Eat, Drink, Promote is a great resource for our members as well. As you can see from this screen, we have a lot of education happening at the Ohio Restaurant Association in the coming weeks. We have the remaining sessions of the social media webinar series, which Sean will be presenting. And then we have 2 other opportunities. One on June 30th is the relationship between human resources and safety performance. This is a 2-hour webinar, and it is valid for the BWC safety training. And then on August 6th, we're having a presentation, is franchising the right choice. This would be for someone who is looking at maybe some way down the road, possibly franchising their business. And that's also a webinar. It's a 1-hour webinar. So again, thank you to Sean for his expertise. And I want to thank you for your participation today and for your continued investment in the Ohio Restaurant Association through your membership. And if you're interested in any of these webinars and you haven't already signed up, definitely go to our website, ohiorestaurant.org, and register. Thanks again, and have a great day.